it take to improve South Africa's economic situation? Workers' Union are embarking on a national shutdown today. They're calling on government to take action against the rising cost of living and the high unemployment rate. Economist Azar Jammine joins me now to weigh in on this. Mr. Jammine, good morning and thank you very much for your time. You know, at the heart of this protest is a call for government to intervene in the rising cost of living and wage suppression. But the real big question is, how much room does government really have to maneuver?
Well, government really, I suppose, can do whatever it wants in terms of influencing prices, but there would be massive distortions that would arise from such a thing. If you depress prices too much, then you won't get any supply of those goods because no one will want to supply those goods at a loss. You know, that is something that the workers just don't understand. That's how a business works. You set a price above the cost that you incur, and that is the way a business operates. Otherwise, it cannot operate and lose money. And if those prices are set by factors that are beyond the control of government, you know, I don't quite know how they would like to see this pan out. If it's a case of the government then subsidizing the suppliers and making up for the shortfall and preventing them from losing that money, then that would involve government in having to borrow that money and then pay interest on that money that it uses to subsidize those prices. That is not a very sustainable solution, especially when it knows that the increase in prices that it's faced with is something that's beyond its control. It's due to international developments.
But are there no low-hanging fruits right now? That one thing that an economist could advise government to do that can at least, if we're speaking of structural reforms here, that can allow for them to ease the pressure a bit on the working class? So are you saying to me there's absolutely nothing they can do and this in any way becomes a futile exercise? Because it seems so often that government sort of sidelines the technocrats who want to give this advice, that you can actually structurally change things to ease the pressure just a little bit. Is there nothing they can do?
Well, the easiest way to ease these pressures would be to actually start implementing all the infrastructural investment projects that are in the pipeline. That would be a game changer. We would see a whole lot of new job opportunities being created, a lot of new businesses being created that might profit from the situation, and workers who worked for those businesses would benefit.
All right. And then to the magnitude, though, of the strike. It's a national shutdown. We know that SAFTU and COSATU have joined hands, but there are those such as Santago, which transports the working class, not partaking. But what does this unity that many have not seen in a very long time mean? Just the unity of the labor movement coming together. Should capital be worried for the future that perhaps we're going to see a lot of these type of protests where now the labor force actually comes together?
Should capital be worried? I think the way in which this translates is that capital will try and be ever more reticent to embark upon investments in the country, and the infrastructural drive that government would like to see will then become a pipe dream. That is the way this might work. Unfortunately, the labor movements combining, what is known is that the number of people belonging to trade unions has been steadily declining in line with the increase in joblessness in the country. And this is an attempt at a show of force. But theoretically, government does not have to pay too much attention to the unions because, as I say, they're becoming weaker and weaker in terms of numbers.
It's important that you mention that when investors look at this, they might be more reluctant to invest in the country. So perhaps could you quantify this action for us? What would it cost the economy today if it is completely shut down? Because it seems at this point they're confident that they will shut down the economy.
You know, shutting down an economy is a bit of a cliche. a lot of the economy will continue operating. I guarantee you that if I went to the shops today, I would find them all open. If I had my own transport, and you've got to bear in mind that 85% of what is spent in the economy is spent by about 15% of the people who do have the means to bypass a lot of the strike activity. So the impact on the economy directly in terms of a one-day strike is not going to be huge. Where it does really hurt, though, is the message that it sends of a non-cooperation between business and labor, and that makes business ever more reluctant to take on workers on a full-time basis. And we've seen in many of the data, I can quote you a lot of the instances and show you graphs which show how the South African economy, in an environment where there is an abundance of unskilled labor, is moving towards ever more capital intensity and reducing its reliance on labor. And movements, the kind of strike activity that we're seeing today, makes it even more likely that business will refrain from embarking upon labor-intensive processes and prefer to use computers and other kinds of machines to do the work.
No, very dark times ahead for us. Dr. Jammine, thank you very much for your time. That's economist Azar Jammine. More news on the